Lately, Donald Trump, when he's not berating the parents of a fallen American military hero or angrily insisting that crying babies be forcibly removed from his presence,
You can get the baby out of here.
has been taking a lot of heat for his alleged connections to Russia, whether that's in his financial dealings with Russian oligarchs or his expressions of admiration for President Vladimir Putin, even as Trump himself remains unclear on what their current relationship status is. So if you're an American voter looking for a presidential candidate with no shady ties to powerful Russian interests, Hillary Clinton seems like she may be the perfect candidate for you, right? Well, not so fast. As the New York Times recently reported, the Clinton Foundation, run by former president and longtime Hillary husband Bill Clinton, has received millions of dollars in donations from wealthy individuals associated with Russian uranium mining companies, all at the same time that the State Department, headed by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, was tasked with approving deals to grant these same Russian companies control of 1/5 of the United States' uranium production capacity. That's interesting. Specifically, these donations included more than $2.35 million from the chairman of a Russian-owned company called Uranium One. And those contributions were not publicly disclosed by the Clintons, despite an agreement Mrs. Clinton has struck with the Obama White House to publicly identify all of the foundation's donors. And soon after the Russians announced their intention to acquire a majority stake in Uranium One, Bill Clinton flew to Moscow to deliver a speech for which he was paid $500,000 by a Russian investment bank with links to the Kremlin that was also promoting Uranium One stock. Then there's Clinton crony and Canadian mining financier Frank Giestra, who enlisted Bill's assistance in helping his company Eurasia Energy secure the lucrative rights to 3 uranium mines in Kazakhstan before Eurasia Energy merged with, and you might be able to guess this one, Uranium One. To date, Giestra has also donated $31.3 million to the Clinton Foundation. And while Hillary Clinton's State Department was involved in the committee that in October 2010 quietly granted Uranium One control over a substantial portion of American uranium reserves, there's no evidence that Clinton herself was involved in the deliberations or the approval process. But it's also true that ultimate authority to approve or reject the Russian acquisition rested with cabinet officials, including Mrs. Clinton, at the same time that her husband was collecting millions in donations from people associated with the company seeking that approval. Now, the benefactors to the Clinton Foundation associated with Uranium One all deny any connection between their donations and the uranium deal. Frank Giestra, for example, said he was extremely proud of his charitable work with the Clinton Foundation and urged the media to instead focus on poverty, healthcare, and the real challenges of the world. Those are actually real challenges of the world, but obviously you see what Frank is doing here. It's certainly possible that these uranium industry bigwigs with ties to Russian companies and the Russian government just felt generous and wanted to donate to the Clinton Foundation out of the goodness of their hearts. And it's also possible that Donald Trump just thinks Vladimir Putin is just a cool guy he'd like to hang out with. You know, maybe go for a shirtless horseback ride together. Maybe make out a little bit, you know? Maybe hunt some lions. Anyway, Clinton's defenders have repeatedly pointed out that there is no smoking gun proving a quid pro quo between Clinton Foundation donations and the US government approval for uranium rights. But you know what else there's also no actual proof of? That Russians were responsible for the DNC hack, but that hasn't really stopped Clinton and her surrogates from acting as though it's an established fact that Putin is using cyber warfare to intervene in the US election on behalf of his buddy Donald Trump. Ultimately, when it comes to shady Russian ties, what's the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? That's the question. Well, for one thing, there's the intelligence factor. Like her or hate her, Hillary Clinton isn't stupid enough to broadcast her admiration for an autocratic foreign leader the United States considers an enemy in the middle of a presidential campaign. She also knows the game well enough to maintain sufficient buffers between her and the influx of Russian cash to maintain plausible innocence. So while she may be dirty, her hands aren't. As for Trump's hands, well, they may well be dirty too, but they're so tiny, who could ever tell?